Okay, so UFOs, right? It's everywhere you turn these days.
It's like everyone's suddenly an expert on extraterrestrials.
Congressional hearings, videos popping up online. Even my neighbor claims they saw something weird in the sky last week.
And, it's easy to get caught up in the hype, but that's what we're here for.
Exactly. We're doing a deep dive into all this UFO stuff. What do we actually know? What does the science say? And are we really alone in the universe? Let's get into it.
Sounds good to me.
So we've got these congressional hearings, right, with these ex-military witnesses basically saying, yeah, we've seen some things we can't explain.
Some pretty extraordinary claims.
And that the government knows more than they're letting on.
Yeah, and good luck getting them to tell us the truth.
It's like something straight out of the X-Files, except these aren't just random folks spinning yarns.
Right, these are serious people, many with very credible backgrounds, and they're testifying under oath.
So these claims, they carry some weight, even if we haven't seen a spaceship land on the White House lawn just yet.
Exactly.
And it wasn't just vague stuff about lights in the sky either, right?
No, not at all.
One of these sources even mentions a specific account of, get this, something being stolen from an alien craft.
I mean, if it's true, that's huge.
It's those details that really make you wonder, like, okay, what did they take, and what could it possibly tell us about the technology these UFOs supposedly have?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It really is. And then you've got brilliant minds like Michio Kaku weighing in. And in one of these articles, he has this great analogy. He says, trying to find aliens with our current technology is like expecting, like, ants to understand the internet.
It kind of makes you feel small, doesn't it?
It really does. It makes you wonder, are we even looking for the right signs? Or are we so focused on what we know that we're completely missing something else, something totally different?
It's definitely something to consider.
But before we go too far down that road, we got to address the big question, right? If these UFOs are real, if there really is life out there, why haven't they come, knocked on our door and said, take us to your leader?
Why all the secrecy?
Right. It's the age-old question. And that's where we start bumping into the very mind-boggling world of astrophysics and the sheer scale of the universe.
Because it's truly massive.
It's like trying to imagine, I don't know, every grain of sand on every beach on Earth.
It really is mind-boggling when you start to think about the vastness of space, the sheer size of it.
And that's where we get to the Drake equation, right?
Yeah, that's one way to try and get our heads around it.
This equation, which, by the way, you've got in your notes, it tries to take all of that immensity and give us some kind of probability. It's not about saying, oh, there's definitely this many alien civilizations out there. It's more like, okay, if we factor in all these things, stars, planets, the time it takes for life to evolve, how likely is it that there are other cosmic cultures out there?
Exactly. It's about possibilities more than certainties.
And even with, like, the most conservative estimates, the math suggests it's pretty darn likely.
It really is.
Which leads us to the Fermi paradox, which is basically the universe's way of saying, hold on a minute, if it's that likely, where is everybody?
Why haven't we shaken hands or tentacles or whatever they've got with an alien yet?
It's the ultimate cosmic reality check, right? We get all excited about the possibility of aliens, and then the universe is like, not so fast.
Right. And then we have to grapple with the realities of things like interstellar travel.
Which, let me tell you, one of your articles breaks it down, and it's enough to make your head spin.
Yeah. The distances involved are just mind-blowing.
Okay, so we've talked about Alpha Centauri, right? Our closest star system.
Our next-door neighbor, cosmically speaking.
And it's 4 light years away. Which sounds close, like a hop, skip, and a jump away.
Relatively speaking, right.
But it's still an incredible distance. We're talking about traveling at the speed of light for 4 years.
Which is, like, the universe's speed limit, as far as we know.
So even if we could travel at that speed, which we can't, not even close, it'd still take us years to get there.
And that's just to our closest star system.
Exactly. Imagine trying to cross the galactic street, let alone visit a different galaxy.
It makes those UFOs showing up on our planet seem a little bit more complicated.
A little bit.
Okay, a lot more complicated. And we haven't even touched on the energy it would take to travel those kinds of distances.
Talk about an energy crisis.
It's not like you could just pull over at a cosmic gas station and fuel up,
Yeah.
Even if those hypothetical warp drives were possible.
Warp drives, like bending space-time?
Yeah. Or wormholes. I mean, these are like serious physics theory concepts.
Straight out of Star Trek.
Exactly. But even then, the amount of energy needed would be astronomical.
It makes you wonder if maybe, just maybe, we're looking at this all wrong. What if those limitations, these obstacles that seem so impossible to overcome, are only true from our very limited Earthling perspective?
Now, that's an interesting thought. What if we just don't know enough yet to even understand the possibilities?
We've talked a lot about spaceships and physics and, the rules of the universe.
It's easy to get caught up in the how, right?
Totally. But what about the who? We kind of skipped over the most mind-blowing part of all of this. Life itself.
Life, as we know it, at least.
Exactly. We just assume, life needs water, carbon, DNA. That's just how it works.
Right, because it's all we know.
Right. But one of these articles made this point, and it really stuck with me. What if that's just Earth life? What if somewhere out there, on a planet with a completely different environment, life found another way?
Like, what if we're just a really specific recipe in a universe full of completely different cuisines?
I like that. It's like that saying, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. We're looking for life as we know it, but what if it's something we can't even begin to comprehend?
Well, and some of the alternatives your sources mention are pretty wild. Silicon-based life, for instance.
Hold on, like living rocks? Sentient crystals? I'm equal parts fascinated and terrified.
It does kind of make you wonder what's lurking out there, doesn't it? Silicon is actually pretty similar to carbon in terms of its chemical properties, so it's not as far-fetched as it sounds.
Okay, so maybe not talking rocks, but still it really makes you realize we don't know what's possible. We've got our one planet, our one example of life. To think we've got it all figured out is pretty arrogant when you think about it.
It'd be like seeing a chimpanzee use a twig as a tool and assuming that's the pinnacle of technology.
And that brings us back to those UFOs, right? And those technologies that seem impossible. What if it's not just advanced tech? What if it's a totally different understanding of reality?
What if what we're seeing as, like, breaking the laws of physics is just life, but not as we know it?
It's both awe-inspiring and kind of terrifying, right? It's like, are we not just technologically behind? Are we existentially behind? Like, we're the ants and they've got, smartphones.
Right. And maybe that's the biggest takeaway from all of this. The universe is full of wonder and mystery, and the more we learn, the more we realize we don't know.
So where does that leave us? Should we be booking our flights to Area 51, dusting off the old telescope?
I think it's less about having all the answers and more about staying curious.
Yeah.
Asking the right questions. Approaching all of this with a healthy dose of both skepticism and wonder.
I love that, skepticism and wonder. It's not about believing every blurry photo or dismissing the possibility altogether. It's about staying open to the possibilities while keeping our feet on the ground.
Absolutely.
And you know what? I think that's a great place to leave it for today. So until next time, keep exploring, keep asking those big questions, and who knows, maybe one day we'll have some answers.
And maybe we won't, but that's half the fun, isn't it?
Yeah.